Here we are back to Brighty of the Grand Canyon. For the next chapter, Blue-Flecked Rocks. When the cakes were richly browned, the old man stacked a plate for Jack Irons and handed him a jug of honey. Then he fanned a single cake in the air to cool and sprinkled it generously with sugar. He smiled sheepishly. "Brighty likes sugar better than honey," he explained. "'Tain't so slobbery." As the trapper watched, Brighty took the rolled pancake from the old man's hand and began chewing it rhythmically and thoughtfully. "You two always dine on cakes and honey?" Irons asked. The note of scorn in his voice was lost to Old Timer. "Only when we're celebrating, stranger, and now how about sampling a cup of my coffee?" Uncle Jim says it's black as a thief's heart." Jack Irons glanced up sharply, trying to read the old man's thoughts, but Hezekiah Appleyard was not even looking his way. Irons flashed an ugly grin. "I like my coffee black as that," he retorted. The two men in the burrow finished their supper in silence, while a handful of stars pricked holes in the sky. After a while, the old prospector took a gold watch from his pocket and began winding it with a little gold key. "'Tain't but 7, he said, winding. "I'll pile more wood on the fire, and how about us chinning some before bedding down?" "Much obliged, old timer, but soon as the moon shines over the brink, I'm crossing the river and heading up to the south rim. By the way," he asked, making his voice sound casual, "what you celebrating?" The old man held his tongue, thinking. He picked up a sharp-edged stone and began cleaning Brighty's hooves as though he could clear his thoughts at the same time. He failed to see that the stone he was using for a pick was veined with blue, but Irons' quick eyes caught the telltale color of copper ore. His mind began racing. "Now, don't you bother spilling your secrets to me, old-timer," he wheedled. "It's just like I said, I'm topping out of this black pit, and I don't figure to come back. Not ever. I'm tired of trapping. Ain't even enough beaver in these waters to keep me in grub." The old man was only half listening. He was eyeing the lean, hard body, noticing the sleeves stretched tight over the bulge of muscle, the big, broad-fingered hands with their broken fingernails and solid legs encased in their puttees. "You mean you're done trapping and out of work?" he asked. "That's exactly what I mean. I ain't one to complain, but tonight's the first square meal I've had in weeks. And when I saw your cozy camp with the critter and all, right away I says to myself, here's a man I can trust." Old-timer looked all around as if to make certain they were alone. "If you're really done trapping," he cried, "maybe you could work for me. I need young, muscly feller because," his voice pitched high as a boy's, "'cause me and Brighty found an extraordinary vein of ore." Jake Irons smiled to himself at how neatly his flattery had worked. "Yep," the white head nodded. "With you and me to dig and Brighty to pack the stuff out, us three can get rich quick. You see, I got a sister with a crippled youngster, and sick folks needs lots of money." "Yeah, I know," Irons said sarcastically. "You're just the kind to give the stuff away." Mistaking the mockery for approval, the old man sat down, leaning happily against Brighty. "You'll do, Jack Irons." His eyes were far away and joyous. "You'll do as a partner in the little Mimi mine." For a long moment, the muffled roar of the river filled in the silence, and somewhere down the canyon a coyote howled. "Arr-arr-arr." "Even by starlight, you'll see how rich the stuff is." Hoisting himself up, the old man moved near and spilled the blue-flecked rocks into greedy, outstretched hands. "Here, study on 'em, feller." Over and over, Irons turned the nuggets in his hand. Then he made a wide circuit round Brighty and fed the fire, the better to see. "Where'd you find these?" he asked, trying to hide the eagerness in his voice. "Well, friend, me and Brighty was dawdling along, loafing and poking along down close to the Colorado, when we spied us one of them horny toads." "And then?" "Then Brighty flips his toad over with his little old mealy nose, and underneath, guess what?" Without waiting for Irons to guess, the old man went on. "There underneath was one o' them blue-green rocks. 'Twas only a broken-off lump, but I figured where there's one, there's more. Yeah, like mice. Exactly. And I looks up overhead and I see some more o' this color in an overhang of rock, and me and Brighty forgets the horny toad, and I begins a-digging and a-digging. Got so feverish I hardly stopped for meals. If it hadn't been for Brighty bellering at sundown, I'd like to starve to death. Jake Irons turned to the nuggets and flopped down in the sand on the one side of the fire. Lots of veins look good to begin with, he said, but they pinch off to nothing. You're right, most of 'em does, but not this one. No sirree, it got bigger and bigger the further I dug. Only just today was I certain sure. Some morning I'll take you in the tunnel and show you. He pointed north. 'Tain't far, just over there a piece. Wait till you see the tree ladder I built up to the tunnel. She swings out a bit over the river, but she's stout enough. Jack Irons plucked at his beard, figuring a way to accept the invitation and seemed casual about it. I see you got a tent big enough for two, he said at last. And it's been a long time since I slept out of the wind. Besides, he added, looking toward the river, it'll be risky trying to cross on that cable way in the dark. Guess I'll stay till morning anyway. But your burro, he hesitated. Does he hug camp all night? You're darn tootin' he does, and it makes me mighty proud. Until I had chanced on this here copper mine, I had only two things I took a pride in. One was my grandpap's gold watch with the gold key to wind it, and the other's Brighty. Found the little feller running wild along Bright Angel Creek. So you named him Bright Angel, him being so bright, I suppose. Yep. Only he weren't no bright angel at the time. Great horns, but he was a sight. Some porcupine had made a pincushion out of his face. The old man clapped Brighty's rump. 'Member, feller, if I hadn't come along about then and roped you and pulled out the quills of my pliers, you'd have gone under for sure. Chuckling, the prospector turned away now to Jake Irons. Guess he was so hungry and hurted, he figured I was his best friend. Irons' eyes avoided Brighty, and he strove to keep the contempt out of his voice. And so he's latched onto you ever since, I take it. The whitehead nodded. Except for summer times. You see, Irons, he's like a migratory bird. Winters he lives down here in the canyon, and where it's warm, and summers he hightails it up to the north rim where it's cool. You know, he went on, leaning back against Brighty. 'Twas him that made the trail all the way up to the north rim. And mind you, Irons, that wall's so steep he couldn't go the short way. He had to zig and zag. It's over 21 miles to the top. The old man stretched his legs and dug his heels in the sand. If ever you decides to top out north instead of south, if ever you decides to top out north instead of south, Brighty here knows the way. Don't forget that. And if he's a mind to, he can pack a pick and pan as nice as you please. You don't say. Jack Irons glinted in the firelight. Jack Irons' eyes glinted in the firelight. But I do say, and what's more, Brighty knows character. If ever he out kicks a man, there's a man can't be trusted. Once when we went downtown, Brighty near kicked a barber out on the chandelier. Next I heard about him, that haircutter feller was serving time for thieving. The trapper went over to feel his beaver skin, but his mind was listening. Now, on the other hand, old timer went on, take Uncle Jimmy Owen up on the north rim. Know him, son? Just by hearsay, Irons answered. He's a government lion hunter, ain't he? Yeah, he's the one. Well, Brighty's got good sense to mistrust Uncle Jimmy because he smells the heaven of lions. And anyone knows a burro hates lions worse than work. But does he hate Uncle Jimmy? Don't he? Indeedy no. He sidles up to him to get his back scratched, same as he does to me. Like I say, Brighty knows character even when it's wrapped up in a lion smell. Why, if I was to die tonight, Uncle Jimmy'd step right into my boots, fur as Brighty goes. Right into my boots. Irons sharpened his knife blade on a rock, thinking. He hardly heard the next words. You see, old timer was saying, Uncle Jimmy understands just like I do that Brighty's a free spirit. Seems like he's got to be a free to breathe. The talk petered out and the fire burned low. Yawning, the two men went into the tent and settled down for the night. And the old man on his cot and the young man wrapped up in his blanket. Between them, the big gold watch hung from the ridgepole, ticking the minutes away. Oh, my goodness, this does not sound like this is going to turn out good. But that's it. That chapter was called Blue-Flecked Rocks. More later. Bye.